It all began about 15 years ago, in the secluded forests of northeastern Pennsylvania. Here, in an isolated cabin, far from the reach of city lights, three friends Martin, Kyle, and Jess spent weekends escaping into the quiet, hidden depths of the woods. Their nights were filled with laughter and the kind of reckless freedom that comes with being 20. Yet there was an unspoken thrill that surrounded them, an excitement that went beyond just bonfires and games. Something lingered out here, and that something was about to draw them in. As the nights grew longer, their carefree adventures took a darker turn. They began to tune into ghost hunting shows, falling asleep to tales of hauntings and spirits. Eventually, the shows weren't enough. Martin and Kyle, curious and restless, wanted to know if the stories were real. With only flashlights and a thrill-seeker's nerve, they began exploring abandoned houses, daring each other to uncover what lay beyond. What they didn't know was that some places are best left untouched. One cold night, Kyle heard whispers of a place called Devil's Elbow. The story was dark. A man-driven mad had slaughtered his family here. His spirit said to haunt the crumbling old house and barn. Some claimed to have seen a shapeless black mass. Others swore that children's handprints would appear on any car that dared approach. Against her better judgment, Jess decided to join them. It was supposed to be one last thrill, a final hunt. But the road to Devil's Elbow stretched on forever, winding through dark woods and empty fields that swallowed their headlights. Just as they began to question if they'd ever find it, the place emerged from the darkness, a house, barely standing, its walls withered and rotting, and behind it, a barn that looked as though it had kept secrets for decades. The air felt thick, and the tall grass around the house whispered against them as they pushed through. There was no turning back now. The door to the house was open, almost like it had been waiting for them. Inside, silence engulfed them. Shadows twisted in every corner, and holes in the walls revealed fragments of rooms beyond. The floorboards creaked underfoot, a quiet warning in the stillness. Kyle took the lead, calling out to the spirits with a boldness that only masked the unease in his voice. He held his phone flashlight high, scanning each room, but there was only silence, a silence that felt too heavy, too watchful. Then Jess whispered Martin's name, her voice tense. She was looking into the far corner, eyes wide and unblinking. There, dark shape began to form a massive shadow, blacker than any darkness they had ever seen, thick, inky presence that seemed to devour the light. Kyle turned his flashlight toward it, but the light simply disappeared, absorbed into the shape, as if it was swallowing the very beam. For a moment, they stood paralyzed. Then Kyle's voice cut through the silence, urgent and terrified. Run! They didn't look back. Bursting out of the house, they ran through the tall grass, feet pounding as the feeling of something following grew stronger with every step. Footsteps heavy and relentless echoed behind them, matching their own frantic pace, a pursuit they couldn't escape. By the time they reached the car, their breaths came in ragged gasps, each of them too afraid to look back. But as they scrambled into the car, something even more chilling awaited them. Tiny handprints, dozens of them, had appeared on the windows, like ghostly imprints pressed from the other side. Small fingers dragged across the glass, as if some unseen children were watching, hoping to join them. The horror settled into their bones as they sat, frozen and silent, staring at the spectral marks left by something, or someone, that didn't belong in this world. The silence lingered all the way back to the cabin. It was only then that Kyle pulled out what he'd taken from the house. One item was a small card, a Christmas message from a child to their parents, innocent and heartfelt. The other was a bracelet, made from string and beads, simple but precious. For a moment, the three friends sat in quiet horror, realizing what they had disturbed. Some lines aren't meant to be crossed. They thought the terror would end with that night. But soon, the cabin was no longer a place of safety. Unseen forces seemed to linger in the shadows. Strange noises and distant whispers became a constant. Objects would move on their own, and an eerie tension filled every room. Worse yet, Kyle's young son started talking about the man, a figure only he could see, someone who didn't belong. The ghost hunt had become a living nightmare. Desperation drove Kyle to take the bracelet and place it outside, hoping it would rid the house of the lingering shadows. The winter air bit through the morning as they approached the back deck, but when they reached the spot where they'd left the bracelet, they found only its impression, a perfect mold pressed into the ice, the bracelet itself gone, leaving nothing behind but the chilling reminder of where it had been. The haunting slowly faded after that, but the memories never did. The three friends carried the warning with them, a reminder that some mysteries are best left undiscovered. For when you reach into the darkness just might reach back, and if it does, it may never let go.